landing 13 left if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs altimeters 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
If that's available, yes, please.
Remember, correction, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs clearance plus 4658 is type PC final slam call, request clearance to Vegas S-Filed.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon, unable to give you S-File, and I'll be full route standby. Plus 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas Airport. VFR Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7000. Check flight level 2405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7, squawk 6316.
Plus 4658 is cleared to Vegas via Cathedral 1, Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Cresso 3, initially climb 7000, expect cruiser F25, departure 167, squawk 6316 plus 465.
Plus 4658, reback is correct. Tango Mike, taxi to the ramp via Echo and managed frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left traffic, left downwind runway 26 left, report base.
Enter left downwind for 26 left and record your base 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242 on the visual for 20 right, we'll be turning for a right base shortly.
United 242 John Wayne Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170.3.
Clear to land, 20 right, United 242.
Papa Tower, King of 208 Kilo, ILS 4.
Here 520 Yankee Kilo, Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 1.
The land,
Number 237 Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 7 Charlie Alpha, thank you.
Palm Springs ramp plus 4658 east ramp with weather going for taxi.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs ground, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Trail right via Echo Bravo 465.
Riverside Tower, good morning, November 2903 Alpha with you on the ILS.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, good afternoon. Runway 9 clear low approach, report miss.
November 2903 Alpha, PLOTE, low approach, runway 9, next report is this.
Palm Springs Tower plus 4658 ready to go, trail right at Bravo.
The radio area check.
Plus 4658, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, trail right plus 465.
Papa Tower, King of 208 Kilo, 4.
Here's our Yankee Kilo, roger, taxi into the ramp via Alpha.
Via Alpha,
Plus 4658, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure 465.
Cessna 7 Charlie Alpha is clearly active, taxi to the GA parking base.
We're 7 Charlie Alpha, remain on this frequency, taxi into the south ramp via Sierra.
South ramp via Sierra with you, 7 Charlie Alpha, thanks.
Number 2903 Alpha going around.
Number 03 Alpha, confirm going around or going missed?
November 2903 Alpha going missed.
Number 03 Alpha, roger, execute the published missed approach procedure.
Flying the published missed approach procedure, November 2903.
Piper 2903 Alpha, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure, 03 Alpha.
Number 03 Alpha, departure frequency will be 135.4.
135.4 for departure, November 2903 Alpha.
Ontario Tower, November 516 Delta Mike, inbound ILS 26 left.
Number 516 Delta Mike, Ontario Tower. Good afternoon, Ontario. Wind is calm. Runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 6 Delta Mike. Ontario Tower, November 36. Correction, 516 Delta Mike, clear of the active at uniform, taxiing to the south apron.
Number 6 Delta Mike, roger, taxiing the south ramp via Sierra. Remain on this frequency.
Via Sierra on this frequency, 6 Delta Mike.
Riverside Tower, good evening,
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, runway 27, clear to land.
Clear to land on runway 2703 Alpha. Riverside route, November 2903 Alpha. In Alpha, request taxi to the transient partner.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside ground. In the future, don't switch to the ground frequency unless you're told to do so. You should stay with tower, exiting the runway all the way to the hold short point. Stay on this frequency for now, taxi into the ramp via Alpha.
Taxi to ramp via Alpha. Broadband. Number 2903 Alpha.
Generating clearance, November 6th, Charlie Mike, type Cherokee. I would like to attempt the I-4 rating today.
Cherokee 76 Charlie Mike, Jolene clearance. Good evening, good luck on the I-4 destination. Will be, let's go, Kilo, Oscar, X-Ray, Romeo.
That's Kilo, Oscar, X-Ray, Romeo. 6 Charlie Mike.
Yes, sir, good luck.
I'm going to sign off and collect some information for this destination. I'll sign back in. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Just report when you're back with the I-4. And how long do you think it'll be? It's not going to be more than an hour, is it?
No. I have to file and get some charts and plates.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll still be here, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we'll look for your flight plan to come through. And we should learn stuff.
Las Vegas Tower, Pilas 4658 is unusual, 1 on the right, 4500.
Plus 4658, Las Vegas Tower, runway 19 right, clear to land, wind 1807.
Clear to land, 1 on the right, 465.
Plus 658, exit right, taxi into the ramp via hotel, remain on this frequency today.
Exit right, ramp via hotel, land frequency 58, 465.
Beach ground, number 953 Whiskey Alpha's Piper Comanche PH4/Alpha. Taxi the active VFR east departure with weather.
Calling Long Beach ground, need you to verify your call sign, please.
Sorry about that. 916 Whiskey Alpha, November 916 Whiskey Alpha.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach ground, roger. And just confirm VFR eastbound.
Eastbound and repeat east ramp just south of runway 25.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, roger. Runway 26 right, taxi via Kilo.
Okay, 25 right via Kilo, 916 Whiskey Alpha. Long Beach Tower, November 916 Whiskey Alpha, holding short of 25 right Kilo, ready for departure via Fargo East.
November 916 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Tower, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff, right downwind departure approved.
Clear for takeoff 25 right, right downwind departure 6 Whiskey Alpha.
Good day, Palm Springs, ground scanning, Hotel Tango, East Ramp, India, close traffic, runway 31 right.
Papa Hotel Tango, do you Mike? Palm Springs ground, say again aircraft type.
Or a Cessna scan.
Skyline Tango, do you Mike? Thank you, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Echo and Bravo, 31 right, Papa Hotel Tango.
We're 791 Juliet, towards ground left, clear.
Okay, Skype 791 Juliet, we see there's no clearance delivery with this field, so would we get our departure instructions with tower or with ground?
Always go with the lowest, so we'll start with ground, just say your intentions.
Okay, Skype 791 Juliet, type Cessna 172 on the south hangars with the numbers requesting VFR advisories to jump.
Number 791 Juliet, roger, departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 2061.
1249, that's 2061, squawk 791 Juliet.
Got 901 Juliet, read back is correct, are you ready to taxi now?
In a couple of minutes, just got to go around to the side. It's Skype 791 Juliet, south hangars, now ready to taxi.
Sky 791 Juliet, roger, runway 29 right, taxi via hotel, correction, taxi via Alpha in Juliet.
29 right, taxi via Alpha and Juliet, Skype 791 Juliet.
Hey guys, hey Finish G and Evanek, good to see you guys. Happy Sunday. So found some time to fly again. This time around, as I mentioned also in the previous stream, some VFR flight and chatting with A to C. In 30 minutes or so, PilotEdge will go live, and I will just request flight following and just fly from my favorite airport, Palm Springs International Airport, as you know, to Ramona. So a very nice casual, one of my favorite flights. I know that the weather is VMC-ish, also at Ramona. Ramona is also a very basic Delta class airport. So just perfect for a Sunday afternoon of flights. Hey Dowie, good to see you as well. Heinrich, hello. Finish. I wonder if Tim is still feeling dizzy from yesterday. Yeah, we did some partial instrument flying there. Well, not really that dizzy. Actually, I was quite pleased actually with how that went. In unusual attitudes without an attitude indicator. It was very, very educational. Also to know that the airspeed indicator is such a great resource to also infer your pitch. Some pitch information, which was actually much more helpful than the vertical speed indicator, which again is so wobbly, so sensitive. So that was really, really insightful. But again, I'm missing the voice of Marcus and the other controllers on radio, so that's why we're going to do that flight today. Now we're at wonderful Palm Springs, as I already mentioned here at the ramp. I believe this is the southeast ramp. Yeah, it is the southeast ramp. And I think it's also the most beautiful region in terms of photoreal scenery. It's really pretty. Let's have a quick look. Also great airport scenery. So here we are, Palm Springs. So we got a smaller runway here, 3-1 right, usually for the small general aviation aircraft, as you can see here on the ramp. And the bigger airplanes are over there. Runway 3-1 left, obviously. And nearby here, there are all kinds of nice untowered airfields. Benning is all the way over there. Bermuda is the other way around. It's over there. And we got Thermal. And Ramona is all the way over to the other side. Here is the flight that I planned today. So as you can see here, Palm Springs. Yeah, here on PilotEdge, it is treated as a Class Charlie airspace, which is not far from the truth, actually. Only this is a TRSA airspace, and that means that Charlie airspace separation or assistance, you could say, is not mandatory. So usually when you depart here from Palm Springs or you arrive, you get treated as if you were visiting any other Charlie class airspace, giving a squawk code and such, which is totally fine. So that's what we're going to do here, depart from Palm Springs, and I'm going to just fly VFR following the highway all the way down to Bermuda, over to Thermal, and then I'm going to catch this radial inbound to Julian VOR. Again, very, very scenic flight, I think, especially now with such great weather. So that's going to be awesome. I think I'm planning to fly at 8,500. If you look at these numbers here, 6, 9, you can see them also on the other sectors of this chart. Those depict the highest terrain points. And so while we are flying to the west, we need to pick a even numbered cruising altitude. So in this case, 8,500 might be a safe and legal cruising altitude for us to fly as VFR pilots all the way down to Ramona. Now you can see some marginal VMC, also some IMC here, but here at Ramona it was VMC. I don't know if it still is. METAR, yeah, it still is. 3 knots coming out 300, 10 statute miles of visibility, scattered at 12,000. Perfect flying weather. And usually in the Palm Springs area, it's lovely flying weather. So what I'd like to do is just to do a basic brief here. Also of the weather, just to have again a look at the weather charts because they are so pretty. So let me see, getting used to, that's also I guess the theme of today's flight is I haven't been flying on ATC, let alone just VFR, for a month or so, even more. So it might be fun to get back in the habit of again chatting with ATC and doing the usual VFR flight, cross-country flight briefs and pre-flights checks. So I guess I'm going to mess up tiny little things, which is always exciting for you guys, I guess, to see. Anyways, the weather imagery. If ForeFlight allows us to have a quick look. Today's forecast. So again, we begin with a general idea of what the weather is doing, and as you can see, a low pressure area. Oh, I have to zoom in here. Rain and storms, yikes. A little bit northwest of us, you can see here the Salton Sea Lake, which is a little bit south here of Palm Springs International Airport. So usually when you see a red L, and it's also because it's reddish, it's usually an indication of bad weather. Okay, so that's a general first idea, indication of what the weather is doing in our area. This is the AirMet valid 0900 Zulu, as you can see in the right top corner. We are currently living at 1430 Zulu, so this is already quite a dated chart, but still, if you swipe through these different charts, you do get an idea of how the weather is developing, which is as useful as just seeing a static snapshot of what the current weather is like. So 0900, this is 1200, still dated, but you can see that the IMC area, thanks for the follow, Batman, welcome aboard, is a little bit expanding. So IFR, as you can see, and BR, so that's foggish kind of weather. Not good for us VFR pilots. This is 1500 Zulu, so this is more a relevant chart for us. It's already kind of like a forecast here in the next 30 minutes or so. And as you can see, still IMC, but it remains to stick around the coast, which is quite typical for the Southern California region here, that the weather comes from the ocean and cannot go land inwards because of hails and terrain and that stuff. So it seems stationary, so that's good. This is 1800 Zulu, and as you can see, actually, that IMC area is actually dissipating. It's retreating back onto the ocean. So that's good. So the general idea here, looking at the AirMets, is that the weather is actually improving and also does not concern our particular flight here to Ramona. That's wonderful. 2100 Zulu is too far away. And also, the farther you look into the future in terms of charts, the more unreliable your forecast is going to be, which is relevant, I think. Now, the significant weather charts, I love these charts. So as you can see here, 0600 Zulu, again, quite dated. Marginal VMC and some IMC, again, around the coast. Confirms what we just saw with the AirMets. And to the right here, 1800 Zulu, which concerns our current flights. Now, as you can see, that that IFR area, again, is retrieving, right? It's going back from the coast towards the ocean, but still there is some marginal VMC, which the AirMet didn't show. It only shows the IMC stuff, and marginal VMC can still be quite limiting to our flights because we still need to remain clear of clouds and, well, a certain amount of visibility. So that's why the AirMet does not give you all the information you need as a VFR pilot to make your flight. So Ramona is near the coast, as you can see, and there is marginal VMC-ish stuff, weather, even during our particular flights. Okay, that's good to know. Let's move on. This is from 1200 Zulu to 00 Zulu, far ahead of time. And as you can see, that IMC red line there to the left is kind of like replaced by more marginal VMC weather, which is also quite typical in our case. I'm not flying in local time here on Palm Springs, but because currently at Palm Springs we're in the middle of the night. And so usually the weather is quite bad, and as soon as the sun rises and it heats up the land, then Earth, then all the clouds eventually will dissipate, right, because of that heat. So usually over time the weather improves, but currently we are actually flying in nighttime weather conditions, you could say. Minimaps, I just entered the Hurricane Irma in the 737. My gosh. Yeah, so many sim pilots I see also on Twitch are venturing into seeing what it's like to fly through a hurricane in Flight Sim World. Thank you for the follow, Jose. Thanks. Again, I'm really closely following all the news outlets about Hurricane Irma. It's serious stuff. My gosh. Yeah. Elios, good to see you as well, buddy. Good to see you on the stream. How are you doing? The 732 is better for weather chasing. Stalls and stuff. Yeah, I can imagine it's going to be quite a ride when you're going to enter that hurricane. No, I'm going to stick with my Cessna Skyhawk here, flying in beautiful Palm Springs area. But my heart goes out to anyone who's living in Florida needing to survive that horrible weather. My gosh, guys, be safe. Be safe. Let's continue with the weather brief. So, yeah, IMC is replaced by marginal VMC. Okay, good. Let's look at the radar. Now, as you can see, we can look at the thickness of the clouds, which is usually an indication of bad weather. A thunderstorm is much thicker density, moisture, and so you can usually see the bad weather lit up. Now, as you can see in our case, there's not that much thick weather in our neighborhood, so that might indicate we don't have a lot of convection going on and a lot of turbulence or thunderstorms or that kind of stuff. Again, quite general idea, but it's good to it's almost like, what's the English word for that? It's kind of like going from a more general idea of what the weather is doing to getting much more local, much more specific, and eventually you try to study the METARs and the TAFs, which is really local terminal weather description or weather forecast. But it's good to have a more general, more bigger scope or an idea of what the weather is doing, because then you can make sense of what the weather is doing locally. You know how it's going to improve, and if weather might change, you've got a better schema that you can rely on to reason what way you should alter your flight. And that's why it's quite important to also look at these charts and not only at METARs. Now, obviously, if you're going to fly a traffic pattern, just a few traffic patterns, there's no sense in really getting a really big picture or such an advanced, sophisticated picture of what the weather is doing, although it's always fun to do so. But if you're going to make a cross-country flight, obviously, this is relevant, I think. This is valid. Let me see, what were we looking at? We're looking at ceilings. Thank you for the host, Dan, or Dan the drummer. Thank you. Happy Sunday. We're now looking at the ceilings, cloud ceilings. Now, again, I mentioned this before, learned from Keith. As a IFR pilot, it is as relevant to know the cloud ceiling. Also, that's kind of weird. It's actually a strange phrase, because what the ceiling means is not the ceiling of a cloud, it's the ceiling of visibility. It's actually the cloud base that we're looking at right now. The point that I was trying to make is that as an IFR pilot, you also like to know the ceiling of a cloud, so where it tops out, so you know when you will break out of the clouds, right? That's usually not the information that is provided. Also in the METAR, it shows you only the base of clouds. Actually, it's weird why this is called a cloud ceiling, because we're not looking at the cloud tops, the ceiling of a cloud, but we're actually looking at its base. Maybe it's only confusing to me. And thanks for the follow, Dan. Thank you. Yeah, think of it as the ceiling of the sky where the clouds start at. Exactly. Usually we're talking, Elias, we're talking about cloud ceilings or that stuff, and that's actually a little bit confusing, or could be confusing. At least that's something that just popped into my mind while reading these charts. Anyways, so we're looking at the cloud base in this case, but 0900 Zulu, so quite dated. We're currently living in 1440 Zulu. So again, we're going to have a look here by swiping to see how the weather is actually, how the ceiling is developing. As you can see, lowering, and now it's elevated again. So you can see that the ceiling is rising, or the cloud base is rising, which is typical because the sun rises, the sun heats up the earth, or the ocean in this case, and so the clouds dissipate or climb. Let me see, 1800 Zulu, this is 1200, yeah, so 1800, as you can see, cloud ceiling is not a concern to us for this particular flight to Ramona. That's great. Okay, precipitation, well, there is no, I don't think so. This is far into the east. No, but we do see a low pressure area there. Okay, so to the east there is bad stuff, and this is, what is the time here? Hello? Valid 0600 Zulu, so again quite dated. 1200 Zulu, 1800 Zulu. Oh, look at this, guys. That's a little bit... is that... little bit weird, because we looked at the cloud ceiling just a few slides ago, but I guess rain could still fall from clouds that are higher than 5,000 feet or so. In the previous charts with the ceilings, they only show you the weather relatively low to the ground. So it's a little bit surprising to me to see that there is that rain is forecast. And you can see what kind of rain or what kind of precipitation. It can also be snow, storm, or ice. And as you can see here, it's green, so it's rain. There is some chance of rain in that area, which clearly covers also Ramona and Palm Springs. But I guess combining that with the stuff that we already know in terms of clouds and where they are, I guess that chance is quite marginal. But it's good. It's good to know. And again, rain is not really a problem for us as VFR pilots. You should not treat it as a cloud in that case, that you need to stay away from a rain shower, 1,000 feet or whatever, 2,000 feet. But it does limit your visibility. So a heavy rain shower, which you should never be in, because also of all kinds of wind drafts, downdrafts, updrafts. But still, in terms of visibility, you do need to stick to that visibility limit of 3 nautical miles. And rain can actually be quite limiting in terms of visibility. So that's actually the main concern with rain. Couple that with temperature, and you got icing, with freezing, I mean. But still, it's good to know as a VFR pilot that rain is not necessarily a problem for us. $116 knots winds. Yeah, I see a lot of tweets actually by the NOAA and all kinds of other weather stations, also by guys of 4Flight that are tweeting the METARs of airports on Florida. Man, it's almost dreamlike in a bad way, nightmarish-like, to see those METAR readings saying winds 300 at 160, gusting to 185 knots. My gosh. Okay, that's rain. Visibility, that's also important. Two things are important as VFR pilots: visibility and cloud ceilings, right? Those are the two measures or dimensions that we need to look specifically at as VFR pilots, because either way can turn into, or either one defines marginal VMC. We need to have at least 3 nautical miles of visibility. Now, as you can see, 0900 Zulu, only visibility here below 6 statute miles is shown, is around the coast. And you can see it's worsening a tiny bit, or expanding a bit, you could say, to 1200 Zulu, but now 1500 Zulu, which is current. You can see that it's still expanding. We got some visibility issues here that covers our route. And that would be, we can expect around 6 nautical miles of visibility, which is still okay. Between 3 and 5 statute miles, we are technically in marginal VMC weather conditions. And I always like to re-emphasize, also as part of my own training here in the flight sim, that even though you're totally legal to fly in visibility of 3 nautical miles and above, actually flying with 3 statute miles and above, if you're flying in with that visibility, it can actually already be quite challenging and dangerous. Even though you're totally legal to do so. And that's why they invented marginal VMC, I guess, to already warn VFR pilots, like saying, okay, you're still legal to fly in this weather, but this is getting risky. So that's interesting. So in our case, we've got some marginal VMC, only in terms of visibility, not in terms of clouds. Not a big thing. We are flying on radio navigation as well. But it's good to make sure that as soon as we are arriving in Ramona, we do have a plan B. In case visibility is really, really bad. But I'm not expecting it to be so. 1800 Zulu, you can see that the visibility is actually improving a little bit. So that's good. Okay. Winds, what are winds doing at 6,000 feet? There are many other charts, variations of these charts that look at all the different altitudes. I just picked 6,000 because it's kind of like the average of a cruising altitude that I'm flying with the Skyhawk. Thanks for the follow, HSR, or HS Right. Lord, happy Sunday. Winds. Again, I forgot about the direction of the wind barbs. I believe, but correct me if I'm wrong, that the winds are pointing to the, are coming from the southeast and going to the northwest in our case. Am I right with that, guys? Or is it just the other way around? I think that the The direction where the wind barbs point at, the sharp end, is the direction where the wind is flowing towards. I think that's correct. Thank you, Elias. Thank you. Okay, so that means that we are flying a little bit southwest, right? So we're going to have a crosswind, a little bit of a headwind in our first leg. We're going to look at ForeFlight because it calculates our wind components for each leg of our flight. But again, gives you a little bit of an idea of what the weather is doing. Also confirms the low pressures that we are seeing because you can see the direction of the wind here is confirming that low pressure area. Again, this is valid 1300 Zulu. Okay, so still a little bit dated. This is 1600 Zulu. This is more active. You can see the same, more relevant, I mean, the same weather direction, wind direction applies. And 1900, I'm hoping to be already at Ramona. Okay, good. Freezing levels, again, this is only relevant when we've got moist, so clouds or haziness or that kind of stuff, because combine moisture with freezing levels and we got icing. Now, as you can see here, icing in our case is in the orange, happens only around 13,000 feet. Well, we're not going to fly that high, so no risk of running into icing. Probability of icing is therefore none at 7,000 feet. Okay, and that completes our weather briefing. I love these charts. I hope you do too, guys. Now, let's have a look at what ForeFlight is saying, looking at our wind component. So let's hop over to the flight planner. 8,500. A 1 knot tailwind overall on average for the entire flight. So it could change or be different from leg to leg. But this is great. Okay, so what am I going to do? So again, I would like to fly on flight following. Why not? In about 12 minutes, PilotEdge will go live. John, how long you've been training for? Well, about 2 years. Since the first day I decided to train. And then I built my own cockpit and I studied all kinds of real-world training resources like King Schools and Sporties and AOPA, and I've seen pretty much any flight training video on YouTube, so hours and hours and hours. I guess I already spent 4 months or so before I even touched my yoke here and sat behind my cockpit. There's so much to learn. I really like the academic, intellectual dimension of flying, getting to know the aviation system and getting to know your Skyhawk. And then I started with practicing with my flight, and that's actually my first episode that you can see a review here. Also on Twitch, I believe I uploaded it, but you can also look at it on YouTube. It's quite a journey actually, and now I'm starting with my season 2 of my series, which is all about instrument flying. So I just completed my VFR training, which was wonderful, and I'm actually longing for to again taste again in this particular flight. So that's why I'm going to do that VFR flight today. Alrighty, so that is what I like to do. Flight following, depart from Palm Springs, south-east departure. Or actually an east departure. 8,500 first leg, just VFR, just look outside, enjoy the scene. And then I'm going to pick up this particular radial to Julian. We need to be careful of these MTRs. As you can see, a lot of military traffic here is generated by PilotEdge on these MTRs. And as you can see by the number, it's a 4-digit number, so these guys are flying quite low, below 1,500 feet AGL. But looking at the terrain, they follow the terrain, right? So in terms of MSL, they can still be quite high up. But I guess if we start to climb quite decently, well, if you look at this mountain range, for example, 6,700, add 1,500 to it, and you're already near our cruising altitude. So it might still be relevant for us to look outside, as always, to make sure that we don't fly into any other traffic. Also, that's the advantage of flying on flight following, because hopefully the air traffic controllers will give us a heads up, because that's what flight following is for, among other things, that the controllers give us some traffic alerts, which is great. But good to be aware of. We're going to fly to Julian. Again, a lot of terrain. That's a big thing here. Again, we're going to cross this MTR once more. As you can see, we're going to cross it twice. Once there on top and once there at near Julian. And well, at 8,500 we should be fine. Again, the highest terrain here is at 6,900. Here it is at 7,100, so we would be fine. Most likely be fine. The next concern, I guess, when we arrive at Ramona is weather. So in terms of visibility, as we've seen, so perhaps the visibility is too bad for us to spot Ramona. I don't really think so. I think we're going to be fine. There's no radio or VOR, as you can see. I mean, VOR, no beacon on top of Ramona. So we really need to rely on our visuals. Now, as you can see, there is a nice road here that goes all the way down to Ramona. So if we can spot that one, we would be great off, because it would just guide us towards Ramona. That's great. There's also a lake here that we might spot. Well, let's just connect the dots here as a GPS point. And again, this is why it's important to know that we can actually rely on that visibility. Because if you are flying with 4 statute miles of visibility, which is still legal for us as VFR pilots, it would greatly limit your chances of actually spotting such a lake ahead of time, or a road, or that kind of stuff, especially when you're high up. So that's why it's important to be aware of that stuff. Elios, come to the dark side and fly some helicopters. Not a chance. No, I cannot spot any, but not any interest for me into flying helicopters. I think helicopters are so ugly. They make noise. They have nothing to do with the feelings that I have, the romantic feelings I have towards flying. I'm really not a fan of helicopters. Also, great helicopter jokes by pilots saying the worst things about helicopters. It almost feels like the same thing that people can be really annoyed by cats or by dogs. Well, the same kind of thing or relationship I have with helicopters. But I have to be honest though. I've never flown a helicopter before. I have flown or played around with it in a flight sim a long time ago. But I should actually also fly a helicopter in real life, because it's a little bit hypocritical to bash the helicopter if I've never flown one. So I should. Hey, Sniper, good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing? Sunday, just a casual Sunday flight. Really casual, relaxed flight following from Palm Springs to Ramona. So jump aboard and we're just going to have a nice chat. And also just to dust off my ATC skills a tiny bit. I'm feeling a little bit, well, not insecure, but it's going to be, again, a good exercise to chat with ATC once more. Okay, so 2 things: weather, visibility at Ramona, but we'll find out quick enough. Also, as you can see, Bravo airspace. It immediately reminds me of my Cat 11 rating, where you need to fly from LAX, at least on PilotEdge, from LAX to San Diego, to Limburg, and you're actually gonna transition the Bravo, obviously, to get to Limburg, which was so dreamlike. It's so weird with this tiny, rusty Skyhawk to land at San Diego, or even depart from LAX. But in our case, also when we are on flight following, we are not granted automatically the permission to cross Bravo, and we do not intend to, because we just need to go to Ramona. So as you can see, there is a sector here just crossing Ramona there, starting at 4,800, but already 3,800, a little bit more west. Well, I expect that we can arrive easily at Ramona, obviously, entering the traffic pattern, but it's good for us to know. We're flying at 8,500. If the visibility is worse, and I might be creative or suddenly have a spontaneous idea like, oh, let's just stick at 8,500 for whatever reason, and let's fly over Ramona and circle down, then we will very likely, or most certainly, bash into that Bravo and get a nasty email by Keith and Marcus So that's something that we need to be aware of. As you can see, there's also a big magenta circle here. For those who don't know, as you can see, mode C, 30 nautical miles. Because it's such a traffic dense and also airspace dense area, look at all the Bravos, all the Delta airspace. It's really a beautiful mess. I really like these charts. I think it's art almost, but still, it's a really complex airspace. The air traffic controllers like you to be on mode C with your transponder, altitude mode, so they know exactly where you are, but also how high up you are. So that's actually a quite common sense kind of requirement, I guess. Anything else? No, not really. What would we do when visibility does worsen or is not good enough for us to reach Ramona? Well, we know that the weather, again, this is where the weather forecast briefing comes into play. We know that the weather is worse on the left side of this ruler, right? This stuff. It's around the ocean. So if we like to divert, I'm not going to divert to Palomar or whatever, because chances are the weather is as bad or even worse on that side. So we need to go back. So what we could do is go back to Borrego and land there, because we know on the east side of this mountain ridge or range we most likely have good weather. We also got Warner Springs there, where we did some very nice gliding with Avanek and Keith a while ago. That might also be a solution if the weather is better there. And we also got some private airports here in case we do have an engine out or something worse happens. Yeah, but I think Borrego is the best choice there. So I guess at 8,500 when we're overflying Julian, I'd like to see already ahead on the terrain here, and perhaps already spot Ramona. And we need to follow that road. Yeah, and we need to descend after Julian, so we just stick to the terrain almost. So we're going to continue flying 3,000 AGL, 3,000 feet AGL, and we just climb or descend with the terrain until we eventually hit Ramona. Now let's have a look at the airports too. Plates. I missed you, Plates. Palm Springs. Airport diagram. So, that sounds like a good chart or good routing. Let me see. Clear. I don't like to see 25 pixels. Why is this a default? Boom. So, Palm Springs. Well, as I already showed you guys at the beginning of the stream, 2 runways. We are currently parked over there. So that's going to be the east ramp, southeast ramp. And we're going to request for a eastbound departure. Most likely we are going to get assigned 3-1 right. Most sim pilots on PilotEdge actually start on this side of the airport. Many times when I depart here, the controller confuse my position with being on the west ramp. And I'd like to go to 3-1 right. It doesn't really matter that much, but I just like this side of the airport more because I'm a small GA aircraft flyer. So that's going to be the idea. So a very brief, simple taxi. We're going to take off, switch over to departure, and off we go. Okay. That's going to be a taxi Echo Bravo, or most likely Echo Bravo to 3-1 right. Okay. Then I also like to have a look at Ramona. 1 runway. It's a perfect student pilot airport, actually. Ramona, full screen. Taxiways? Taxiways. Ramona. Runway 27 and 09er. Okay, that's quite basic. So it's going to be, perhaps we're even going to get a straight in 27. That might happen because we are coming from the west. Let me also see what the traffic pattern flow is. Do we see RP? No, we don't. So either way, when we are going to land on 09 or get assigned 09 or 27, we know it's always left-hand traffic pattern. But chances are, and also the controllers can mess that up as well. Just to assist you, they could also say here, Papa Hotel Tango Mike, enter right base runway 27 because we're coming a little bit from the north, right? So we're going to enter like so, and then so, and on 27. I'd like to know the traffic pattern altitude. As you can see, the airport elevation is at 1395, so 1400 feet-ish. MSL, so at 1000 feet, and you will get 2400 feet AGL. That's the kind of like the rule of a traffic pattern altitude, but sometimes it can be different, and as you can see here, it is not on top. Pattern altitude 2394 feet. Okay, 2400s. ATIS and stuff we're going to tune, and ground tower, it's quite basic. Okay, that completes our briefing. Now, I didn't preset my cute Skyhawk here with the rep. Also, guys, the public version of the rep will be available in the next few days. So that's going to be, again, version 3.1.1. With all the fixes and the stuff that I've been flying with at the moment. Actually, I do not have the latest version, so the stall horn is still a little bit too sensitive and stuff. That's all been fixed. So expect a mail by Simcoders or SimMarket or whatever you bought the rep from for that new public release of an update version of the rep, which is great. Okay, so we briefed our flight. Let's get going then. Nice. Nice. All right. So again, yeah, as part of the rep, that was the point that I was trying to make. I didn't preset my pedo cover and all that stuff. I'm not going to do the external rock around for each flight. I've done that for so many times in my previous streams. It's a great feature of the rep, but it just takes up a lot of time that it's not that relevant for my training at least. So that's why I'm going to skip that. I already done that. So I'm really going to do my interior checks and get flying. Let me see, my seat belts are a little bit twisted here. Boom. Okay. Center my screen. Yeah, that's better. Alrighty then. So first, for cold and dark check again. Yeah, parker brakes are set. Live vest, fire extinguisher, door is closed. ELT is set to auto. Flap lever is up, and our flaps are actually up. My SciTech panel is working. My trim has not been set. It is now. Fuel tank set to both. Cutoff is in. Alternate is in. Circuit breakers are nicely in. My switch panel is working, batteries are off, only the beacon is on, and my avionics are set to off. Great. Then let's test the control surfaces. A yoke to the right, then the left one goes down, and the other one should go up. Yeah, and the other way around. Looks good. Looks good. Elevators. Trim tab. Yep, it's working. Those are my rudders, and those work as well. Nice. Then batteries on. How much fuel do we have? Well, we've got about 13 gallons in each tank. That's 26. We need about, I'm never saying that correctly, I think we need about 12 gallons, 12 additional gallons for reserve. If you're flying by day as a VFR pilot, it is required that you have at least 30 minutes of additional flight time in case you need to divert. At night, that's 45 minutes because it's more risky. So it's not enough to only look here at ForeFlight and saying what ForeFlight is telling us. The gallons we need about 12 gallons. Well, at 13, but if you now would say 12 gallons, you would say, oh, we've got plenty of fuel, right? We've got 26, but you need to have some additional gallons to be totally safe. So add 12 to these, and we've got 24. Well, we only barely make the that amount of fuel that we got in the tanks. We are going to make it, but still, it's good to think in reserve as well. But we are fine. That's good. Batteries on again. Okay, so avionics turned on. Those are working again. I guess because of my Reality XP edition for the 430, somehow my nav database is now off, so we cannot use the GPS, which to me is great. We're flying slant alpha, but still that's something that I need to look at. And